This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
Hey everybody, welcome into the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast. Just a reminder, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So today is Saturday. So just to sort of update you guys on what's been going on, where we're at. So the Patriots conducted their last open practice to the media on Friday. Very light affair. Shells, half speed, really sort of like a Friday normal game week practice, the haze in the barn, like all that kind of stuff. So not a ton of stuff to glean as far as any competitions and things like that. Let's go over sort of, where we see the plan for the Commanders preseason finale. Jerod Mayo told us Jacoby Brissett will start, and all four quarterbacks will play. So judging off of practice, and this is just a guess, and again, I almost have to preface everything I say about this team with this is a new regime, and a lot of the previous 19 years that I've spent covering the NFL, I have to readjust things. Based on my experience and what I saw in practice, my guess is that Jacoby Brissett is not going to play very long. I think it probably depends on how long the first series goes. I'm sure they would like to see Jacoby have a little bit more success than he has shown in the previous two preseason games. That bar is not very high. I think judging off of how they split the snaps, I think that Drake Maye plays more, probably until halftime, maybe after halftime. A lot of it depends on the number of plays. What we saw in practice was Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton both split scout team reps. They didn't get any reps with the normal starters, or even like running their own stuff. They just ran opposing stuff off of cards, like we talked about last time with Nick. Among the players I wouldn't expect to see much from in this game, I do think David Andrews will start. I don't think he's going to play very long. I would expect Nick Leverett to come in and play, and then Liam Fornadell at center. Who else? Ramondre Stevenson, Austin Hooper, who's been dealing with something, Devon Godchow, Keon White, Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, and possibly Christian Gonzalez. He didn't seem to take a ton of reps, but it's hard to really judge what they do in the secondary, really as the defense as a whole, because they really swap those guys in and out. Like you can have the first team front seven and scrub secondary players, or you can have all the starting secondary players and scrubs up front. They are seen very indiscriminate as far as to how they do things in practice on the defensive side of the ball. It's not how normal teams do it. It's not how they do it offensively. As far as the Commanders, it's going to be a lot like the Panthers game, unfortunately. So Jaden Daniels is the starter. He's not playing. Marcus Mariota is the quote-unquote backup. He's been dealing with an injury. He's not going to play in this game. That means I would expect to see Jeff Driscoll start. I wouldn't be opposed. He would be on my sort of list of possible additions to the practice squad as a veteran QB. He's been on a bunch of different systems. Rookie Sam Hartman from Notre Dame and his glorious hair. We should see a lot of him, and Trace McSorley. One thing I wanted to mention about this game against the Commanders is I think the Patriots have a chance to look a lot better in this game than they have in the previous two preseason games And it's not because they're going to play most of their starters, and probably Washington will not. So this is another thing that is a new experience for me. When Bill Belichick was here, you could count on them doing at least some prep for the preseason game, working on cards, which means that you are going up against, some of the offensive and defensive things you would see or you anticipate seeing from your opponent. Jerod Mayo has not done that at all in the previous two preseason games. They've pretty much gone in cold. Now, the Eagles were a bit different because they just practiced against them. So they saw some of what they did. I think we heard Drake Maye talk about that practicing against the Eagles made the game a little bit easier for him. And that's good. But they pretty much went in cold turkey against those teams. And that's why I think it looked pretty rough. That should not be the case this week. The Patriots did the last 3 days of practice, extensive work with cards. So now I don't know how much of that is Washington, how much of that is Cincinnati for the regular season opener. I'm sure there was a little bit of that mixed in, but I would expect the Patriots to look pretty sharp on both sides of the ball because of this preparation that they did for this game. Related to that, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to tell you about game time. It's that time of year. It's starting to get a little bit cooler here. You know what that means to me? It means football season. And football season, to me, is something that you have to enjoy. You have to be a part of the experience in person, whether it's pro, college, high school, what have you. There's nothing like being in the stands for a football game. And with that, got to find a way to get there. And for me, it's Game Time. The Game Time app, gametime.co. Go check them out. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Patriots are playing at the Bengals. I'm sure some of you would love to see the debut of the Jerod Mayo era. Just also remember that the Cincinnati football team has a history of slow starting, not very good in the openers. So, if you're looking for an upset, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It certainly is not. So make sure you go check out the tickets. I just booked my flight. Flights are reasonable. Go check it out. Part of what I love about this app is you get the view from the seats. I have to have that. I don't care if I'm going to a concert, baseball, football, whatever. I have to know what I can see. Am I going to have a good view? Are people going to be in front of me? All that stuff. So make sure you check that out. They also have all-in pricing. Toggle this feature to show you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You've been on other ticket applications and you're like, oh, this is a good deal. Suddenly you get there and there's like $75 worth of fees. Game Time takes that out with all-in prices. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. What time is it? Game time. Okay. So the other big development this week, at least since we've talked last, was the offensive line. Nick and I have done a lot of talking about this, especially in the wake of the Eagles practice where they got absolutely steamrolled up front. We talked about changes that we wanted to see, ideal offensive line, and there's good and bad parts of this. Fedarian Lowe sustained an injury. It looked like, in his torso, oblique, left side. Those can take a while. I'm sure a lot of you, including some of my friends on the radio, are like, oh, thank goodness Fedarian Lowe got hurt. I don't think that's quite fair to him. I think he's done a nice job. I was just totaling my pass rush numbers for my sort of year-end or camp end review of camp, all that stuff, awards, superlatives. It's all going to be on BSJ on Sunday morning. And one of the surprising things, totaling up the one-on-ones through camp, Vidarian Lowe was 12-3-3 in one-on-one opportunities. And oftentimes he's going against some of the Patriots' best rushers. He only lost 16.7% of the time. That's like tied for fourth, but it's certainly up there. I mean, the offensive line did a great job as a whole. I had them winning 107, losing 58. They only lost 28% of the time. Now, some of that is against the Eagles. But individually, I thought the Patriots offensive line did pretty well in this camp. And so, Vidarian Lowe was a surprise. He has been a surprise in camp. He's done a nice job. I know some of you guys remember him from last year. He's a different cat this year. And it's doubtful to me that he's going to be ready for the season opener with that type of injury. I guess you can't rule it out. But he has been out. And so the Patriots have rolled out left tackle Chuks Okorafor, left guard Sidy Sow, center David Andrews, right guard Layden Robinson, right tackle Mike Onwenu. Those of you who've been listening to this podcast knows that was my preferred offensive line for a long time, especially since Layden Robinson in the past 2-3 weeks has really taken a step forward. And I think I said last podcast that you could make the argument that Layden Robinson was the third best offensive lineman at this time on this team. I think it's close between him and Sidy Sow. I think that Robinson is stronger, as Sidy Sow talked about to us after practice the other day. So's probably a little bit better of a pass blocker at this time, but Robinson's done a nice job. Robinson played a lot of right guard in college, so it's more natural to him than, say, competing with Sidy Sow for left guard. But I think I'll be very interested to watch this line against the Bengals. Chuks Okorafor is somebody we've talked a lot about. From what I understand, he wasn't really comfortable with left tackle, preferred not to play there. When Vidarian Lowe went out of that practice, it was almost all Caden Wallace at left tackle. Chuks didn't even move over there. But it was nice to see in the next two practices that Chuks was out there and basically manning left tackle. I think this is their best path forward. With Robinson has been very impressive. I would say he's right by, I would say Mike Onwenu, David Andrews, Layden Robinson, and Sidy Sow pretty close right there. So I think this is their best line. I think that Jerod Mayo believes that. He said, I would say it was encouraging. It was encouraging to see that in terms of that unit. Anytime you can sandwich a rookie between two veteran players, that's always going to be a benefit for the player and also the team. We're still trying to figure out that combination, but I feel like we're getting pretty close. I wonder if Vidarian Lowe comes back and regains his job whenever that is. Do they automatically go back to Okorafor at right tackle? I don't know. I think I would leave it as is. I want to see the game film with Layden Robinson at right guard, see how that looks. And I think Mike Onwenu has a chance to be really sturdy at right tackle. Definitely not his best spot. Right guard is. But I think they've had all sorts of trouble running to the right. I think especially right tackle, right end in this wide zone scheme. And now Mike's not the fleetest of foot guy, but we all know he's a powerful blocker. So if they can get better at that, they're going to be better offensively. So that was encouraging. We are going to take a break, and we are going to come back and talk about Drake Maye, Alex Van Pelt, all that stuff. It's Greg Bedard, and I wanted to tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. I love this. I love the games that they have on there. Some of the stats that you can pick out, like, do you think Tyreek Hill will get more than 90.5 yards in week 1? Aaron Jones runs for more than 66.5 yards. Cook up your hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Okay, so where I think we are with Drake Maye at this time, we've heard from Jerod Mayo. We heard from Alex Van Pelt. Jerod Mayo kept talking about a quarterback competition on the field. While Drake Maye has gotten a few more handful of snaps with David Andrews in practices this week, to me, I don't think it's significant. I think it was more about game preparation. Now, Drake Maye's play, I will say, to reiterate, I'm sure what you've heard from others. Drake Maye, since the Eagles game and confidence he gained, and we've heard people talk about it, whether it's Mayo, his teammates, that was a big launching pad for Drake Maye. The guy who was indecisive, thinking about things, it's not really there anymore. He has the switch has gone on for Drake Maye, and I'm not going to get into who's been better and all this stuff. Let's just say Drake Maye has improved. There's a confidence, there's a calmness, there's a decisiveness about him. He's been pretty accurate. I mean, he's looked a lot better. If this Drake Maye started camp, I think we'd be talking about a legit quarterback competition. That didn't happen. That's not Drake's fault. That's not anything to say that he was struggling for a bit to really get traction. But I think the Eagles game gave him a belief that, I can do this. I can play in this league. I just got to play. And I think all of that was a positive. I think he's certainly carried that into the practices. Since then, Jacoby went down, had an uptick towards the end of the week. He had a beauty pass on Friday. Again, it was just jogged through, but I think it was the Jalen Reagor down the right sideline. It was beautiful ball. But we need to see it in the games. Like, I don't really care what Jacoby does during practice. Like, he needs to start executing in the game. And I do think I think Alex Van Pelt talked about like the interception to Hooper and also the third down throw to Hooper. I wasn't thrilled with Austin Hooper's routes on any of those or either of those. And Van Pelt made mention of, we had a route issue on the interception. If we do that correctly, it's probably a walk-in touchdown. To me, that was Austin Hooper. Like, because he ran a little like stop and go. And to me, watching the film, and if you're a member at BSJ, the video's on there, we go over it, where I think if Hooper nods to the outside and then cuts across the face of the defender, it's probably a walk-in touchdown. But for some reason, he went up the field. Even that third down throw where Jacoby was a little bit short, I do think Jacoby needs to do a better job of getting his legs, getting a better base. Some of his throws they're lacking energy down the field, especially at the end. But I also didn't like Hooper's route on that. I didn't understand why he didn't go more towards the sideline. He faded that one as well. So hopefully they clean that up. I don't think we're going to see Hooper, who dealt with an injury, came back. I don't think we're going to see him a whole heck of a lot, maybe for a series or a handful of plays. But Hunter Henry, I will say good news on that front. He has started to do things on the rehab field. He's been watching practice every day. So that's encouraging. I would say he's on track, if he doesn't have any setbacks, to be back for the opener, which they need. But, I'm sure you guys have heard the comments from Alex Van Pelt about Drake Maye and about Jacoby Brissett. In my mind, I think he made it very clear that Jacoby Brissett is his preferred quarterback Now, for how long, I don't know. And I don't think he's wrong. And I don't think it's unfair to Drake Maye. I mean, we're talking about a guy, Drake Maye, still in practice under center. He has issues. We've seen the fumbles. There's also a lot of bobbles under center. And Alex Van Pelt made it very clear that this offense is going to be under center. I think that's the way they have to win. Those are the things you have to talk about in terms of, who we're going to play and when. A lot of it is, what does our offense look like? How are we going to win games? What do we need to do? And, I don't think Drake Maye is very comfortable under center. I think that's sort of the big task now from until he plays, is getting him more comfortable doing that. And right now, I just don't think he's at a point to be able to do that. Now, I'm sure some of you will say, well, just go to shotgun, do what's comfortable for him. I mean, you can, but how does the running game work off that? Is it effective? Can you do play fakes? I mean, we've seen the Kyle Shanahan offense, the Mike McDaniel offense. A lot of them operate, under center. And this team, because they're limited with their weapons, they need to make as much space down the field for their receivers as possible. And that comes from good, hard play action and play fakes. And it's hard to do in the shotgun all the time. It's hard to make a living that way. It's obvious that Alex Van Pelt is not comfortable. We heard Van Pelt was asked what's holding Maye back from being the starting quarterback. Jacoby. Right now, he's our starting quarterback. The good news is this week we'll get to play everybody. We're still in the evaluation process. We have one more preseason game and our guys are going to play, so we'll have another chance to evaluate. Does Maye have a chance to be the week 1 starter? I'm sure. Coach said it's an open competition. Obviously, we have one more game to go. I'm sure there's a chance. But I think, as you go in, there's still a process for how you bring a rookie quarterback along. So I think that's important to remember as well. There was another quote after that. I think it's just to bring them along. There are certain things in this offense that Jacoby, having played in this offense, understands some of the tools that you can use to get you out of certain situations, pressure situations, things like that. Drake is still learning, but he has been really impressive the last few weeks of practice and in the game, and he's moving in the right direction for sure. But again, rookie quarterback coming in and playing, obviously we have Jacoby, has tons of experience, not just in the NFL, but in the system. I've won games with him in Cleveland, so I really understand. I feel comfortable with his understanding. But again, Drake is really pushing. I don't disagree with anything that Van Pelt said. Drake's doing a really good job, and he is pushing probably more than they thought he would. And some of it has to do with Jacoby. Really, after a good start, has regressed. Seems like he's pulling the nose back up right now. But I think that Jacoby can just there's a lot that he knows about this offense and getting them in and out of good plays and all that stuff. And Drake's going to learn. And I think the best place for Drake is to watch, especially with what's going on with the offensive line. I think the first 4 games of the season, they might be trying different combinations. Vidarian Lowe could be getting back in. You don't want Drake Maye dealing with all that. Let Jacoby deal with it. Let him take the hits, which I'm sure there are going to be a lot of them, and let Drake just learn. He's never been through this process before, game planning for an NFL game, scripting for an NFL game, like just, take it easy. And I don't really care what the other rookie quarterbacks are doing. People shouldn't be paying attention to that. A lot of those guys, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, even Michael Penix, these guys are all older. They played a lot of college football. They have a lot of experience. JJ McCarthy, before he got hurt, was in a pro system with Jim Harbaugh. Drake Maye played 2 years of college football, didn't play his senior year of high school. wasn't really trained up. One thing I have heard is that, the report about his footwork being non-existent was true. What I also heard was he didn't have any bad habits. So they didn't think that was an impediment. I do think his footwork's gotten better in a lot of ways, but under center, there's still a long ways to go. It just looks odd. The timing, him coming away, he bobbles some of them. Like that's just gotta come up. Like, Van Pelt said, yeah, in our system, we go under center. Obviously, our run game is a big part of what we do, and that starts from under center. I think he's adapted well. It was foreign to him as he got here, but right now it looks seamless. We did have an exchange issue from a snap under center that we have to clean up, but it's been smooth so far. I think Drake's, doing a good job from where he was after the Eagles joint practice to where he is now. It's almost a 180. You could just tell his confidence is growing. He's very even keel. I love that about him. I think he's very smart as far as football and all that stuff. And I think he's really, really going to benefit from watching. And I don't really care. People who say, well, you need the playmaking element, all that stuff. That's just far off. And some people complain about the entertainment factors, Jacoby Brissett and all this stuff. Okay, say Drake Maye starts at the midpoint of the season. Boy, you're not going to tune in to watch that. So I think the Patriots are going to be interesting throughout the season, whether they sink or swim. Let's see. What else? I think that's about it. The plan right now is to have my final 53 ready to go after the game on Sunday night. 8:00 starts the last game in the National Football League. That's going to be brutal. I'm going to be doing some TV. I'm not going to the game. I'm going to be doing pregame TV on NBC Sports Boston. I will be on Sports Sunday after the game. I will also be on my normal 98.5, the Sports Hub post-game stint, probably after midnight. Just one sort of look ahead to final cuts, waiver claims, all that stuff. If you go over $50 for the year, for the whole year, for me and Giardi on football, plus you have Corrales on Celtics and Gethin on Red Sox, Hags on Bruins. We would love to have you over. And I'm doing a member Q&A on Sunday before the game. So any questions you have, if you're a member, you get them in there. Every week I'm there answering questions. Whatever you have, I answer all the questions. So one sort of look ahead, doing my 53-man roster, I would say that where I think positions that are going to be a priority for them as far as waiver claims and things like that, I'm looking at offensive tackle. I'm not expecting them to find a starter, but somebody who's an upgrade over, say, like a Calvin Anderson, who I do not have on my 53. Right now, I just have 3 tackles on my 53. Looking to claim or trade somebody else who's an upgrade over Calvin Anderson to be the 4th guy. A really good defensive tackle against the run. They're really lacking there. Not only as a backup replacement for Devon Godchow, but somebody just on the early downs. They don't really have anybody like that. Edge, if you could find somebody who upgrades you over Zimenez, I'd be looking for that. I don't know if you're going to find that. Would love a blocking tight end. Really like what Jaheim Bell's done as an athlete. I think he's going to be good for them. I would keep him on the 53. You might be able to get him through to practice squad. But considering the issues on the offensive line, I would love a really good blocking tight end to go along with Hunter Henry and Hooper. Other areas, veteran QB on the P squad, we'll see what they can find with running back. But yeah, just trying to upgrade the depth. But that's it for now. We will be back probably Tuesday after final cuts, things like that. Remember, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. We will enjoy the game. We will see you next week.